from that safety bar, raise your hands in the air, and shout as loud as you could. Well, for the past 8 years, my life, my writing life, has been a roller coaster ride. There are highs, and there are lows. And I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not rushing out to ride the wild mouse in Sydney's Luna Park. But the story of anyone's success in book publishing is filled with highs and lows. And like every good picture book, in 2011, the year I turned 64, my son surprised me with a very unusual birthday gift. He took me skydiving. And that is actually me, skydiving. My daughter-in-law, who's a great artist, decided that the actual picture of me with the actual parachute wasn't as interesting as that. So that doesn't look real, but that really is me. So he took me skydiving, and it was a thrilling experience, and it was very empowering, because when my feet touched the ground, I knew that if I could jump out of a perfectly good airplane, I could do just about anything. And what I had decided that I wanted to do was write picture books. As a primary teacher, I read them every day with my students. And when my own 3 children were growing up, I read them as well. I even would scribble a couple of little stories when we were waiting at the doctor's office or stuck in traffic. Don't worry, I was not driving at the time. But I never seriously considered becoming a picture book author until that year. I had just published an activity guide for parents and teachers. It was called Show Me How, Build Your Child's Self-Esteem Through Reading, Crafting, and Cooking. And it was chock full of picture book suggestions, simple craft projects, and child-friendly cooking experiences. And although it was wonderful to have a published picture book, I knew that I had to get the books out of the boxes and into hands. So to help spread the word, I started a blog. And believe me, that was more challenging than writing a picture book manuscript. I knew nothing about blogging or social media. In fact, I thought that a tweet was something a bird said. And one of my first blogging buddies suggested that I go and visit picture book author Susanna Leonard Hill, because every week she reviewed picture books. So I did. I linked up with Perfect Picture Book Friday. I discovered a world of writers whose dream was to have a picture book published, and I realized that that was my dream. She's amazing. 3 debut picture books coming out this year, and 2 more coming out in 2020. And you might ask, how did that happen? For me, creating success in book publishing is a lot like producing a delicious pizza. You need ingredients. And just like the word publishing and the word pizza, they all start with the letter P. And by the way, all the art, the extra art, the hearts and the sun and the pizza and the sky on all the pages, my 5-year-old granddaughter did those. So, and you know what? That's what we're all here for, actually. We're here to inspire children. You know, so whether we're writing or we're illustrating, our end product that we want to get into children's hands, that's what it's all about. So that's why we included her. So the first ingredient is passion. Success in book publishing requires passion. I think you really need to want it, and you need to love the writing or the drawing. With writing, you're going to be revising a lot. As Stephen King said, writing is rewriting. And it definitely helps to love what you write because you're going to be reading it and revising it over and over and over again to make it the best that it can be. And illustrators have the same problem, the same task. Success in book publishing requires productivity. Most agents don't want to represent just one story, although some do. And if an agent falls in love with your work, she probably will ask to see more. So how do you create a stockpile of stories? For me, I love to have several projects going on at the same time. I'm constantly coming up with new ideas. I find them by listening to people, watching TV, surfing the internet, reading books. Usually I'm researching one manuscript. I'm writing a rough draft of another. I'm revising a third. I'm sending a fourth to critique buddies. More about critique buddies later. And I'm polishing, which I probably won't. And you get a book deal quickly, which you might not. It usually takes about 18 months for a picture book to publish, traditionally. And it could very well take longer. We signed a contract for Sweet Dreams Sarah at the end of 2015. And it is only now, in April 2nd, will be the day it launches, coming out. So many things can delay, and you have to have the patience, and you have to be busy doing something else. So, you know, if you've got a book in the works and it's being delayed, be working on several others. We also need to have patience with our writing. When you send it out for critique and you get back lots of suggestions, sometimes it's good to let it sit for a while. Because what should you change? What should you keep? Will your changes make it better? So set it aside, and meanwhile, you can be working on the next story. Success in book publishing requires determination and courage to try again. I'd like to share what I heard Jane Yolen say at a conference last year. Jane Yolen is the author of over 375 books. That's right, 375. And she told us that she gets 5 rejections every week. Now, can you imagine if she's getting 5 rejections a week? How many stories is she submitting? That's one of our problems, I think. Whether you're a new writer or an old writer or a newbie or seasoned, sometimes it's hard to get that work out. What if they don't like it? You know, what if the editor says no? Or what? Who cares? If the work is ready, get it out there. Because it's not doing you any good sitting locked away. But it doesn't matter. You know, you've got to have that love of yourself and love of your work and really enjoy and be passionate about what you're doing. So those are the 4 keys. The 4 ingredients, thanks to Sophie for the pizza. Passion, productivity, patience, and persistence. But you know, when you make a pizza, you combine the ingredients in a certain way. That's the process. A set of actionable steps. And I'd like to share with you the 7 steps that I took on my path to publication. Now, the order of these steps can be switched around depending on your unique situation. And many of the steps may be ongoing. I'm still implementing steps 1, 2, 3, actually, all of them. If you're writing picture books, you need to be reading picture books. If you're writing middle grade, chapter books, YA, if you're illustrating picture books, be reading those books. Nonfiction, humorous, rhyming. Use them as mentor texts, not to copy, but to observe what you love about them. Does the opening line hook you in? Does the ending satisfy? Does it circle back to the beginning? Do you connect with the main character? Why? Does the main character go on a hero's journey? Are they great page turns with tension and drama? You can even type out the text and use it as a study aid. Again, you're not trying to copy somebody else's book, but find out what you loved about the story that you love. And that will help you in your own writing or in your own drawing. The second step is participate in writing challenges and contests. I can't say enough about participation and getting out there into the kidlit community. I started doing it in 2012, and I'm still involved in so many kidlit groups. It's so helpful for me and for everybody else too. Some of them, Carol Lazar's Reading Research Month, where they choose members of the kidlit community to write blog posts about using books as mentor texts. And I'm sure here in Australia and in New Zealand and all over the world, you have your own groups that can provide the same help for you. Julie Headland's 12 by 12. You can see I'm wearing my 12 by 12 badge. So in 2012, a writer named Julie Headland decided to start a challenge because she found that at the end of 2011, she had a book full of ideas, but no stories. And she challenged herself to write one picture book draft every month for the year. So 12 by 12, and it was 2012. And I joined, because that's when I had decided this is something I wanted to do. And that organization was a fabulous foundation for me, because it got me writing a lot. And I have a lot of stories. My agent can tell you, I overwhelm her sometimes. And a year and a half ago, we signed a contract with Houghton Mifflin, and I had to write 9 full-length, non-fiction, picture book manuscripts in like 8 months. Well, really 7, because I had 2 already written, and they had fallen in love with those, and they wanted 9. That's a lot of stories to write, from rough draft to polished, submission ready. But that was good training. So I think you need to get in the habit of writing. Just write lots, whatever you love to write. And I also have a challenge of my own, and I hope everybody is going to participate this year. Every March 2nd, I have a contest called 50 Precious Words. And although it might seem easy to write a story that's just 50 words, I mean, what's 50 words, right? But it's so hard, and the prizes are amazing. And the first year we had 120 people that participated, and the next year we had 230, and last year we had 298. And, you know, just go to my blog and you'll see all the information. And like I said, the prizes are great, but more than the prizes is the participation, is the validation that you will get, because when you post your story, people are going to comment on it. And last year we had 2,000 comments. Every single one of them was positive. Nobody comes on that website and says anything bad. Everybody says, oh my gosh, I love your character. Oh, that was a great story. Thank you. Know, it's very validating. And I think we need that positivity in our lives. So I hope everybody, you know, if you have the time, please do. The next step is to interact with the Kidlit community. Support you and encourage you on your writing journey. You may be fortunate to have a family who believes in you, and that's great. But honestly, most people who aren't actually pursuing the dream, this dream, cannot understand how we are willing to put up with such a small reward and so much rejection. And please, don't leave your day job and feel you're going to make $1 million, although there are some picture book, you know, writers and illustrators and chapter book writers and whatever who might. They think it's going to be quick, easy money, but no, it's so hard. And even though it's only 32 pages or so, it's really hard. Picture book writers work really hard for very, very little monetary reward. But that's where the passion comes in. So if you have the passion and you have the love for it, not that you don't want to make money, you do, but you know your stories are benefiting children, and that's really important. Okay, yeah, and critique groups, please join them. They're amazing. Step number 5, hone your craft. And again, several other speakers have mentioned this. Take classes, watch webinars, attend conferences and retreats on writing. And I don't want to clap here because it'll make too much noise. Hooray for all of you, because you are investing in yourself by being here today. This is a really big step. I mean, some of you may be seasoned writers with lots of books out there. Some of you may be just starting out. It doesn't matter. You're putting money into your own self, and you're validating yourself and lifting yourself up, and that's so, so important. And talking about taking classes, you know, I did not take any classes until 2014. You might ask, like, why didn't she take classes right away? Well, hey, I got A's in English. I was a really good writer. What would I need a class for? But being a good writer and being a good picture book writer or chapter book writer or YA writer or middle grade writer or being a good artist is not the same as telling a story with your art or being a good picture book or chapter book writer. So I did. I took some classes. I actually, in 2014, I took 5 classes that year. I don't recommend that for anybody. It was overwhelming. But like I say, I jumped in with both feet and my whole heart. And so I tend to be a little overachiever. People who live on this side of the world who are friends with me know that I'm up till like 3 in the morning, East Coast time, because I can't get enough. I love what I'm doing. You know, I'm living my dream. But, you know, I think that, you know, taking some classes are good, is a good thing. The first class I took that year was a really basic, wonderful class, Susanna Hill's Making Picture Book Magic, for an illustrator to bring his or her vision to the story, learning about the page turns. So it's good to know that side of the coin as well. Yeah, and another note I had here, classes and conferences, they do cost a lot of money. There are some free things you can do, and that's great. You can put aside $1 a day, and at the end of the year, you'll have enough for a local conference or for an online class. Very important. Write and revise, and write and revise, or draw and write and revise, until you have stories that shine. They will never be perfect, and to tell you the truth, they don't need to be. Because even when an editor falls in love with your manuscript, and it's going to happen one day, I promise you, it will, she's going to want changes. Maybe there'll be tiny tweaks, like in Pippa's Passover Plate, which is my first book that came out in February, yay. And the editor wanted one word change. That's it, one word, and it was done. So that was nice. Sweet Dream Sarah, she only wanted one sentence added at the end. But that sentence took me and my critique buddies like 2 weeks to figure out. Because sometimes, you know, it has to be right, you know, it has to give you that feeling of, that chill at the end of the story, and then you know that that's what you need. And sometimes editors want lots of revision. It just depends. But just create a fabulous story. Polish it until you and your critique partners can read it through. And when you get to the end, and you feel satisfied, and you go, ah, or aha, or ha ha ha, any of those things, right? It's going to get your heart, and this is something everybody spoke about today, all the other speakers. Now, some of you already have an agent. That's great. Some of you don't want an agent. That's also fine. Some of you are going to go directly to editors. That's perfect. But who? And you know, submitting is very daunting. It's a daunting task. And probably harder than writing the manuscript itself, I think. But if you're hunting for an agent, or you're wanting to submit your manuscript directly to a publisher, you need to make sure that you are sending your story to the right person. Read lots of books, participate in writing challenges, interact with the Kindle community, join critique groups, hone your craft, write and revise, and submit. Because a story that sings cannot be heard if it stays locked away in your drawer. I want to thank all of you for your incredible patience and attention. It's late in the day, you are probably hungry or tired, or, you know, and we still have an evening of amazing things going on. But I hope that what I've shared is going to be instrumental in helping you move forward on your path to successful publication. One more thing, turn over the paper or think about what your dream was. And I hope that it's something that you've either realized already in your life, or if it's to become published and you aren't already, that you're going to move ahead, because you need to follow your dreams, because nothing is impossible if you can imagine it. It happened for me, and I'm nothing more than any of you, okay? I just turned 72. Don't tell me that, oh, I'm 50, can I start this new career? I'm 60. No, you can do it any time you want. If it's in your heart to do it, just like Nike says, just do it. We're all here to help you. That's the thing, you know? This is the best community, the Kidlit community. Everybody supports each other. So thank you so much.
Hello? Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Sure. Yes. The question was, how did I get my agent? So in the summer of 2015, I had done PitMad, and I had an agent that was interested, and she had asked for more work. I had done MSWL, which is Manuscript Wish List. Google that. And I had an agent that was interested. I had done 12 by 12, where I submitted to an agent, and all three of those agents were big New York agents. And then I had a friend who on Twitter announced that she had just signed with an agent. And I went to that agent's website, and I fell in love with what she said about herself and about what she hoped for that her agency would become. And that was Essie White, and I sent her one story, Sweet Dreams Sarah, and she emailed me 5 minutes later to say, I love your story. And then she emailed me again that night, and she said, did I tell you? I really love that story. I didn't sign with Essie right away because I was looking, and she was not like a big New York agent, and I thought, I want a big New York agent. But you know what? In the end, I decided to go with the person who was passionate about my work. And I think that that's a really important ingredient in an agent. And I also talked to a lot of her clients. She was very kind, and she put me in touch with them, and they all told me that she was organized and she communicated, and it was everything I was looking for. But that's how I found my agent. There were many, many ways to find agents. Talk to your friends and see who their agents are. But that's how I found mine.
Can I just mention, going to an agent that you relate to is more important than being signed with a big agent, because they may not be passionate about your work, and you sit there and they may not communicate, and you wait, and they may not be sending the work out. So just remember, it's got to be an agent that you really relate to. And I love Vivian's comments that you say, can I have your agent, a list of clients, so you can talk to them and find out the truth. Because getting an agent is not necessarily for everyone. The path to publication is often for many the path to despair.
I just want to say, please, when it comes to getting an agent and getting an editor, you need to do your due diligence. It's on you as the writer or the illustrator to find out, is this person the right person for you? We're all different, so we're all looking for something different. It's like a marriage, and that perfect person might not be perfect for everybody, but if they're perfect for you, that's gold.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. And we're very pleased that you're part of our great conference. Thank you.